Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville, with Bruce Miller and Robert. We're dialoguing on imagination today. Now, we're covering the 12 powers. Let's call it the 12 innate spiritual powers of human beings. And those are the powers that are there within us. And we've been through faith and love and power and release. And now we're going to be talking about imagination today. I told Bruce right before we started, imagination is one of my favorite ones because it's hard to believe that our thoughts create form. But really, the power of imagination is the ability to envision something, hold the vision, and bring it into form, which is the whole basis of self-development. And anybody agree that the motivators talk about that exact thing, right? So, Bruce has been very active in our board in the past. He's also been our music facilitator. Now, you need to understand, once we moved here, Bruce just took over and through all kinds of issues has handled the music very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I really do. He's also a prayer chaplain, which means he's been trained in a lot of the ideas we're talking about. And I want you to understand that the prayer chaplains are not people that just step forward, raise their hand, and say, you're a prayer chaplain. They go through training every year. 6 weeks of evenings doing training in how to pray, how to work, and understanding the 12 powers, believe it or not. So that's why we're working with the prayer chaplains. Okay? Now, I've had a couple people come forward and say, hey, how do I get to do that too? But right now we're staying with the prayer chaplains, okay? And we're going to go through all 12, so we're going to start repeating, I think, next week, so we'll see. But Bruce is our next prayer chaplain that is talking about imagination. First of all, let me tell you, the center, the power center of imagination is the third eye right between the eyes, right there. Okay? The disciple is Bartholomew, who was also known as Nathaniel, and the color that's known for it is light blue. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce to start our dialogue. So Bruce, it's yours.
Thank you, Robert. It's
Microphone, please.
Right there.
It's right here.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. The book that we have that talks about the 12 parts that we have, and imagination is one of them. And imagination is something that I've been doing since I was about that high. And I didn't, what's really powerful about imagination is without it, there's nothing that's possible. Because if we don't have imagination, we can't see what we need to do in order to fulfill whatever need we have that we need to fulfill. And I have worked in my work history, some of the companies that I've worked for, I guess just about all of the companies that I've worked for, people have said, you can't do what you're going to do. It's just not possible. You can't do it. And I worked for a company in Saskatchewan, which is where I was living at the time. And I worked for these guys doing analysis of material from the minefield that we had. And I cannot tell you how many times I was told by people that would come up and talk to me and tell us, you'll never be able to do that. And it happened over and over and over and over and over again. And it was like, okay, so we just went ahead and did it. But the reason that we were able to do that was because of imagination. Because I would see an issue or a problem, and it's like, well, how do we get from here to there? I don't know. So I didn't realize at the time that I was probably actually praying for a solution.
Yes.
And that's what was going on. And sure enough, we wind up with a solution. And potash is a big thing in Saskatchewan, and it's used as a fertilizer. And it's a lot of it, about 65% of it's sent down to the U.S. And the company that I work for, all of the plants that were producing potash drilled down, and then went down underground to get the stuff out of the area where it was in, underground, and it was about 3,500 feet or so. And but we didn't have to do that, because what we did was we were able to drill down into the formation and put water down, and then bring a solution of potash back out again, and then run it through the refinery. Well, when we first started, it was like I heard this. I cannot tell you how many times this is what I said. You'll never be able to do this. And guess what? We started the plant up, and we did it. And not only that, but as we went along, we made the feedstock for the mine stronger and stronger and stronger, because we didn't waste anything, and we put the solution back down into the mine, and then it would mine out other stuff. And so when it got back to the surface again, we'd have a system that was very, very, had more potash in it per liter than anything else. And so what happened was, when we started building the plant, and we started building this plant, and people said, you'll never be able to do this. It's just not going to work. And so we built the plant, and then started things off. And we were at about 600,000 tons of potash a year when we started. And what happened was, over time, we were able to increase the capacity of the system. Anyhow, thank you, Gabby. And what happened when we did that was, we put all of the stuff in place that we needed, and we went from 600,000 tons to, when I left there, we were doing 2 million tons a year. And that was all because of imagination. If we hadn't had an imagination, because we were told, you'll never be able to do that. I can't, like I said, I heard it all the time. And I think I'm getting the nod from Maddie, so I am going to...
I haven't done anything.
Excuse me.
I just did time.
Yeah, so, and I've seen that throughout my life. I'd see something, and it was like, well, this is a great idea, but how do we go from here to here? And I didn't realize it at the time, but it was God that was showing me what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And so, imagination is one of my favorite words in the entire universe, because it gives us the opportunity to be who we are and do what we need to do in a way that other people don't necessarily believe we can do. And the last thing I'll say about the potash plant that I worked for was that when I left that plant, we had 10 producers in Saskatchewan, and we were the second lowest cost producer. And we had, like I said, all kinds of people tell us you can't do that. So imagination is one of my favorite things, because what it does is it shows us ways to be and to do that we haven't really thought of before. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Interesting. Thank you. Did you hear? It's a focus on the outcomes, not the problems. Okay, so imagination is seeing what you want and holding that vision and letting God fill in the vision. See, and we keep trying to figure out, how do I get from here to there? A lot of us have been through counseling, all kinds of things. And, do you really need that if you're looking for the outcome and holding to the outcome? Now, today's world is presenting many other different pictures. Anybody agree we are being trained in diversity? In other words, we are all separate. And the truth is, we're one. So what is happening to the messages that we're getting in our culture right now are scarcity. Anybody agree? We're having all those issues. And when you those issues, what do you create?
More scarcity.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Bruce's example is, it's a practical example. So what do you want? So what do we need to dwell on? Pictures in the mind of what we really want instead of pictures of what we're working with. So if I'm praying, Father, please help me overcome my whatever I'm creating more, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagination. So I'm quoting, and then we're going to open it up. This is from A Course of Love. We're starting that again this Wednesday. Okay. So it says, and this is from A Course of Love on the 23rd chapter, paragraph 17. You must cease to see the difficulty and begin to see the ease with which you can imagine becomes reality. Let's say that again. It's simply saying we must stop seeing the difficulty, and the world is telling us it's not possible. Stop doing that and start seeing the ease of your spiritual self to bring in reality in your life of the pictures you create. Thank you, Bruce. That was beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was.
You're welcome.
Okay. I was ready. Firsthand it went up.
So I know, because I've known Bruce a long time and we've had some really great conversations. I know one of the things that Bruce does is that every day, the first thing he does when he wakes up is that he makes a divine connection. And I know Bruce talks to God all day long. And I know that every decision that Bruce makes, he goes to God. He is like, for me, a walking example of how to stay out of your head and how to stay
Yes.
into your heart. And so many times I feel like when we want to accomplish something, the society we are now, we want it now. We want it fast, And I think you have to train yourself to just be okay with and open to things not being immediate and really listening to that inner guidance. And as you guys are talking about, imagine, like when you let go of what you think something's supposed to look like, things can be so much better than you ever could have imagined. And so to me, it's like a partnership with the divine. It's that being willing to listen to these things that come to you through the power of imagination. And I think when we think about imagination, we feel like it's something we have to do. But I think more, it's just an attitude of openness, an attitude of willingness, an attitude of listening for guidance, and it can come from other people, it can come from your head, it can come from your guts.
Good.
Yeah, so,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I saw two hands, but I heard Larry say something first, so Paul will come back.
so when we moved here and got the land and stuff, we were imagining building a building
Yes.
there. And that didn't happen.
Yet.
Yeah. So, but all this other stuff happened that was really good. So, that's a lesson in that being tied to the outcome.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's perfect. Because the truth is, there were a lot of changes from the time we purchased the property. I remember, I saw the picture of Tommy signing the sales agreement for that. Okay, and then, by the way, he signed the sales agreement for the sale of it too. But at the time, we had these ideas, and the major idea, which Valerie remembered, was we're gonna have a debt-free church. Okay? And guess what, so there's no way, you're right. There's no way we saw the outcome, and Larry, you're mentioning that, thank you. So I still can't wait to see what we wind up with. So, do you have anything to say on that?
Well, I agree with you 100%. And the thing that was really interesting to me as I looked at imagination for the service today was how often I had no knowledge of how I was going to get from here to there, and yet what I know today was that it was divine presence that was showing me the way, and that's happened over and over and over and over and over and over again. And so in my head, I thought that I was doing this on my own, but the truth was there was this presence that was always there. I just didn't realize it.
Always.
Just to build off of what Bruce was saying, I think that imagination is all about the why. And going back to Larry as well, it's about the why, not the how. And one of my favorite crazy visionaries of the modern era is Walt Disney.
Yep.
And I have a poster in my office, and it's a picture of Walt standing in the middle of a swamp in Florida. And it says, "Nothing happens unless first a dream." It is the swamp that eventually becomes Cinderella's castle in the Magic Kingdom. But he is standing there literally in the mud with nothing. So for us, it's the same. It's what do we dream?
You know, you talk about the visionaries, and people talk about visionaries, about people that create things, but they all start with a dream. They all start with a vision. And we've got them in our modern society now. Elon Musk is one of them. There's many others. But they're all talking about what Bruce was talking about. It starts in imagination. And what is the difference between somebody that does this and somebody else? What they believe is true. What's possible. Back to them.
So all day yesterday, I had a really crazy week. I was really tired, so I just kind of hibernated in the air conditioning and had one small errand. But I watched this thing on Disney Plus, and it was a docuseries on light and magic.
Yep.
So it's George Lucas's company that's actually industrial light and magic. And so when he was doing Star Wars, none of the special effects companies that he interviewed could do what he wanted. So he built his own special effects. And then he kept telling, I want this. And it was not done yet. Everything he did for all of the Star Wars, nobody had done. And so it was just really interesting about how, when you challenge yourself to think outside of what you know, what your current order is, you can then break out. And he was only able to do the last 3 movies because he kept wanting to go digital. And he kept saying, we have to figure out a way to go digital. And they did it. So it was just, if you haven't seen that, I think you would really like that.
Yeah. I'm reminded of something. The absolute, as far as we know, power is what you imagine you create. Now, that works all ways. So if I'm imagining a lack, if I'm imagining whatever, let's make it a pandemic, if you're imagining, whatever you're imagining is what's being created in your future. It's like we create a little motion picture and we play it out and we either bring it out and then it occurs. Now it's hard to believe that, and most people would go nuts. What do you mean? You're crazy.
That's a good point, though. Like,
Yeah.
are you imagining,
It
are you
goes
imagining bad?
So a lot of people come to me and say, how can I change? How can I become this? Create a new picture. And actually people get angry at me sometimes, including my family.
Not me.
And I have to talk to myself that way. When something happens, and it's not my fault, it's just the energies created in the universe, and I didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah, Terry's got something.
Terry?
I find myself when I imagine, like, when we moved here, I wanted the perfect house and everything, so I imagined it. But I always add this or something better. And when we got this house, it was a miracle. Not only was it a brand new, beautiful home, but because of the market value, we were able to buy a house for $75,000. and it was just divine order and everything. But I always go because my imagination is not where divinity is, so it's this or something better.
Thank you. That's why I like Bruce's definition. It's really a prayer. When you're imagining, and you know, what you're praying for is what you're seeing. It's automatic.
I'm gonna go on the negative side so that
So-
you all can go on the positive side. Okay? What happens to people
Yep.
is, people are unconscious, however, they don't know they're creating their own world.
Yes.
So people tell their stories, their sad stories, and don't know that they're creating that. So it's very difficult to get into people's stories and what's going on in the world and that kind of thing.
Yep.
So let's make it positive.
Good.
Positive it out.
You understand what she's saying?
Yes. Yeah, I've been there. I was there. Yeah.
You keep rehearsing the problem. I saw Sydney first.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, how do you turn it when someone comes to you and says, no, but it is that. No, but that's delusional. How do you? what
I'm a
do you do?
realist, they say, I'm a realist.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they're just like, this is the way it is, and it is bad.
See, you, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
we feel the necessity to defend our position. What's the matter with just saying, thank you very much, I appreciate you sharing that, and letting it go? See, my picture is different than your picture. It's not my job to try to change your picture. You're trying to change my picture. So I just say, thank you very much. I appreciate you. That's really brilliant, as you can say. You can go that far. Okay? And people don't know. The illusion idea is a difficult thing to understand. They crucified Jesus because he was saying he wasn't real. No, I don't want to be. I'm not going there.
I love a little prayer though, like, what kind of prayer do you send up for people who are really stuck in the?
Why? It's not your job to change people. It's their job to change themselves. And sooner or later, people are going to hear when people are ready. Okay? It's that. See, if I feel. See, if I see evil, then I'm creating a problem.
Yeah.
So there is nothing to change. Everything is.
So sometimes you just gotta bless them and let them go.
Yeah.
And just, maybe if you're feeling resistance about the relationship, it's an opportunity to work on your resistance, rather than seeing them needing to change.
It's always about ourselves, taking care of ourselves, being good to ourselves, giving ourselves good attitudes. It's never about anybody else.
It's protecting ourselves, and we set up this protection because the world's scared. And that's the message the world wants you to keep. Now, it didn't keep you.
And sometimes you have to walk away from conversations. I mean, sometimes you have to just know,
Oh, no, you don't.
hey,
Tom?
well, because you have a PhD in spin, so.
Oh, you don't walk away, you stay.
Yeah. Because he's protected.
Yeah.
Because he has protected himself and he knows, and so that is Tommy's way of dealing with those conversations. So Paul, did you have something to say, or you looked?
Just kind of a couple things as you were going, but Sydney, like one of my favorite phrases, I think I shared it with Terry a couple of weeks ago, is love. Let others voluntarily evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's what we have to do.
Okay. Which is, thank you. I really appreciate it because they're concerned about you. Because you're off on a crazy tangent. Okay. Well,
I don't
again,
usually
they
tell
want to
people my
help you, they
tangents.
want
I
to
just
change you,
send
they
them
want
some
you to be realistic.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just don't want to be sad with people for no reason. They look good to me.
Sad. You want to work with that?
How would you like me to?
Well, if if I'm sad, it means things aren't working.
Means you have an
Yeah.
expectation.
Yeah.
It means that you expect something out of
Yeah,
that person.
which is a time to let, remember last week we talked about letting it go.
Yeah.
See, these things all, see, this takes a lot of faith. It takes love and understanding that I'm only love. There isn't anything that I look at out there that's real other than the kingdom of heaven. Okay?
And letting it go, I hear that so much. Just let it go, just let it go.
Did you hear the anger in her voice?
But,
Elvis.
Yeah, but I think it touches your point. This beautiful book I love going back to is called The Four Agreements. And
What?
The Four Agreements.
Oh, now you're okay.
Yeah. So I think one of the third agreement is do not take anything personally, because everyone's reality is their reality, right? And it is. You know, you can't reject it. Just like I perceive mine, it is. And I know I've been there before. I know my ups and downs, but as you say, the kingdom of heaven is everywhere. So bless you. That's how you feel. Great. You know.
Which is expressing love.
Yeah, expressing
Back
that.
to, you know what, I really appreciate it, thank you for sharing,
Yeah.
which is a form of love. Now, if you say I love you, I was thinking really.
No.
Yeah.
I love you.
Well, thank you. The Four Agreements is a great book, by the way.
Yes.
May I say something?
Well, I love it, Susan.
So, I am one with you all, and I understand that what I project and create in my reality is really powerful. And I want that for everyone. But on the other hand, I hope we all realize that we don't want to go around denying that there's such a thing as suffering. Suffering happens, it's real, and if I put my spin on somebody else who's suffering, it makes them feel as if I'm denying what they're going through. And often what they only want to do is lessen their own burden by sharing it. And to be able to experience someone else's suffering and be with them in that suffering and not walk away and not let it bring you down, but it's going to bring you down some. You're part of the world. The world does have suffering.
So what is the reason that I want to be brought down into their suffering? How is that going to help
Okay,
me?
now we're getting outside of dialogue. Okay?
Yeah. Suffering.
See, the Buddha's idea was suffering is the major thing, and he spent years looking for the answer, and then he gave it up and realized that it was a made-up thing. Okay, now that's, and I agree with your attitude, but it's a concern that I live with. If I'm living in suffering, I'm supporting others in that conversation.
Yes.
So what is the possibility? Okay, so it's living in the outcomes, seeing only the outcomes that I believe are true. Is that good?
Oh, yes.
And that was the
You're
whole-
not teaching me anything, I know that. My outcomes are mine,
Yeah,
but I'm not afraid to feel in my heart when there's suffering happening. I'm
yeah.
not afraid of it because,
I'll keep quiet.
I like, we can get through this together.
yeah,
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
gonna get through this together. And if I can't let it go because I can't, take it. Take the,
That's turning it over, yeah.
yeah.
But I
I
understand
can't
there
just
there
let
are
it
also
go.
people that want to pull you into their suffering. And they want you to be
Push it
sorry
out.
for them and become part of, in other words, they want to keep here.
their story.
Yes.
Okay? So they're-
I know, there's wisdom in here, this
Yeah. And there are negative energy suckers in the world that are here taking energy from others.
So true,
Yeah.
so true.
To tie it back to imagination,
But
it comes back to desire. What is it that we desire in that moment? Because sorrow, grief, shame, that's low frequency. Desire is a much higher frequency. So in our moments of sadness, of sorrow, of pain, of suffering, the question for us and for others is really, what is it that we desire in this moment? I want you to not be in pain. I want you to feel better. I want you to feel light and love. And so if we look at that, then all of a sudden we're back in imagination. There's possibilities out there. I don't know how to get you to happy. I don't know how to help you feel love in this moment, but but that's my desire. And just that desire is imagination at work. And that's where I have to go to.
That's right, back to what Cindy, whatever, she keep giving. Colin, go ahead.
But that's our prayer chapel training,
Yes.
is to understand they are in their world of pain, suffering, whatever, but we hold them in the light and we don't draw it in. We go above it and raise the vibration and hold them in healing, hold them in prosperity, hold them in whatever it is they desire, and not accept the negative, but hold the positive for them.
Because in the prayer chapel, your role is to remind them of their truth.
Who they are.
Now, you can't always do that verbally. And when you can't do that, when a person is not ready for that yet, then you do it in your heart. You know, and then you walk away knowing that it's being handled and you don't hold on to it.
Now we're getting into woo stuff. Your energy, as you radiate, influences the other individual that you're working with. So if we allow, see, that's that's back to the energy. Hawkins, yeah, the staying above 500, which is the love frequency and above.
I find, Sydney, that the frequency that, you know, I'm vibrating at, someone who's got an issue, they want to be in your light. So sometimes, you know, they come to you because you make them feel better. They just want to be near you. So yeah, there's a real, all these lessons of how to overcome these realists, you know, to help them vibrate higher. They just want to be near you. They gravitate.
New word for people, realists.
That's funny.
I love it.
That's great. It's good.
Jesse, would you?
So, as a realist,
Welcome.
sometimes you just want to acknowledge their feelings, like what Susan was saying. You don't have to get in it with them. You don't have to get down in the dumps with them. Sometimes it just says, yeah, that sucks. You know, and then like say, you know, something positive or uplifting, and with your imagination, try to help them like find their own solutions or, you know, suggest some things, but to just completely discount it or like continue on and as if they're not experiencing something, I think that does more harm than good.
Thank you. Again, we go back to what Jesus said. And Jesus said, primarily, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they do. But it's up to us to hold the light. And I forget who said hold the light, but that's really what we're talking about, which is vibrate at a higher frequency. And back to that's why I'm saying, gee, I appreciate what you're saying. Thank you for sharing it. It's not adversarial, it's inclusion.
I didn't actually mean sad, I meant mad.
Yeah,
People get angry
whatever
that
the
they're
energy
happy,
is.
even though suffering is happening.
Yeah, with the world is suffering right
We're not even happy. People who get upset that you're peaceful, even though suffering is happening.
Don't hate me.
People just get very upset.
now. We're getting to the end of time. Anybody want to say something else? Janie.
I just want to share how I operate. I have a negative and I have a positive. I let go and I bring in what I think the divine wants me to do for the day, not for the month. And it's always different and it's always better. Amen.
Yeah.
And you never knew where Janie's going to be.
That's why. Because I let go and I receive. Then I go.
You meant that physically, though.
And
You
mentally.
didn't mean that mentally, right?
She amazes me. Bruce, do you want anything to say?
Yeah, the last thing that came up for me was, what happened for me when I went from having no conception of God, or what that power was, to finding that that presence was within me, and in the final analysis, that's the only place I can actually find it. It's within me. And I had spent my life up to that point looking for the solution out here someplace. And that's not where the solution was. It was already there.
Kingdom of heaven is within.
It was within.
Okay. I'm gonna do something. Now, we're saying the answer to where I wish to be is change the picture. In other words, if people are suffering, hold a different picture of them, which is what the prayer chaplain training is. I hold a picture of you complete and whole, just as you are right now today. And I hold that, and, so I change my energy in looking at you. We made this up, the board did this, and this is a vision for our new church. So if anybody would like to look at it, we asked the board, and the board every day is repeating this conversation. And I'm going to read it to you very quickly. I am thankful, grateful, and happy that we are now holding services and events in our wonderful new church home, located in a perfect location in the roundabout Pflugerville area that has a sanctuary for at least 100 people seated comfortably, and that goes on and on and on. This is creating a new picture. So if you have something you want in your life, you sit down, write out a paragraph. If you need a call a prayer chaplain to help you get it right, and then repeat it every day. Stop dealing with the suffering that you're involved with now. Create a new picture. So I'm going to put this on the back table. You're welcome to pick it, be part of our group that is envisioning this. Right? Okay? And Lord, I know that every day is doing this. But if you'd like to support us in this is simply changing the picture for where we sit and hold our services. Okay? So it's a real simple process. We stop worrying about what is and start creating what we want. Okay? So I'm finished.
Well, Robert, thank you.